Hi Josh, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So thanks for chatting with me again.
Thanks for
How
having me
has your
back.
health been recently?
Um, so it's been okay. I'm doing a lot better than I was in Florida, and I mean it feels like over the past year a lot of um like at least like the rough things like I was going through seizures and different things like that for quite a while. A lot of that has sort of subsided. Like I haven't really dealt with any seizures actually since about February or March, which has been great.
Nice.
And before that, it was like at least like once a month, I was like dealing with these like episodes. So now it's gotten a lot better. So I think I don't know. I always question, I'm like, am I better now? I don't know. And then every time I like am convinced that I'm fine, and then I push myself a little too hard, I get reminded. It's like, oh no, it's still a thing. I'm
Yeah.
still here, still dealing with chronic illness.
All right. Well, you've got something exciting dropping tomorrow. So tell me
I do.
about
I have a
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a song called Sad Songs, and what's funny is the song is actually about a year old. I wrote it when I first got to Los Angeles, and it never rains here ever. And when I got here, California was having its first hurricane in like 100 years, which I was just like, this has to be a fucking joke. Like it has to be a joke because I grew up in New Orleans, and we dealt with hurricanes every year. And then even when my family moved to Georgia, and then Florida, it was just a constant thing that I dealt with my whole childhood. So moving out here, I made the point to say, like, at least we don't have to deal with hurricanes. Um,
Yeah.
and then we move here, and then first hurricane in 100 years in California. And so for me, with dealing with like mast cell activation syndrome and mold toxicity, whenever it gets rainy or like the barometric pressure drops, I get like a lot of pain and like inflammation in my body and stuff like that. So I just remember being in such a bad mood, like,
Yeah.
um, and just being like, I swore that this wasn't going to be a thing. One of the big points of moving to California was to get away from that so that I could like start to feel better and get more things done in my life outside of, being in constant agony. Um, so the first line of the song kind of starts off and just says, "How's it raining in Southern California?"
Yeah.
And I hate it because I swore I'd never see it again. And so it was kind of one of these songs where I was reflecting a lot on my headspace, and you know, my entire career as an artist so far has been kind of built on, writing songs that come from a place of pain, and just talking about my experiences with like negativity in life and different traumas and things that I kind of needed to work through and spill. And this song was kind of more of a thought of like, maybe I cause these negative things to follow me around in my life because I'm constantly fixated on them. I'm constantly talking about them and to them, like through these songs and kind of giving them power. Um, and so, the chorus basically says, like, what if I'm driving myself mad, just writing these sad songs and trying to get these things off my chest. But by getting these things off my chest, am I just adding more on my plate?
Yeah.
It's a hold on my chest. So it's something that I still think about where I'm just like, maybe I am the problem, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but they doing what I've done with low spirit so far has definitely served me in a lot of ways and helped me recover in so many ways, mentally, and helped me work through things. Um, as I think we've talked before, writing these songs has kind of been like a form of EMDR for me, where I get to kind of place all these things into a song and hear them back over and over, until eventually, like, I'm kind of desensitized and it just sort of disarms um, the
Yeah.
feelings that I would like hold in my body whenever I would like recount these things and these events and these issues in my life. And there's a part of me that feels like I've grown now, and I don't need to do that as much. And I find myself wanting to talk about positive experiences now, which is like super strange for me. because anytime I would sit down to write a song, um, that was more happy leaning or positive leaning, I would almost get uncomfortable and be like, I don't even know if this is good because I don't get the same feelings out of this that I normally do. Um, and so there's been probably at least like 50 songs that have been like kind of created and then tossed in the trash because I was just like, I don't know if this is good or not. Like I have no
Yeah.
radar for it.
Right.
Um, so it's almost like I've realized that I have like a problem, like addiction kind of thing where it's almost like I feel far more comfortable being um messed up. Like I've does that make sense? Like it's just
Yeah.
so normal for me,
The
and
comfort. Yeah. Like,
right, having bad things in my life is almost so normal for me that good things become uncomfortable, and positive things become uncomfortable, and you sort of swap the identity of negative and positive experiences, where all of a sudden one's like, okay, that sounds about right, which is the bad things,
yeah.
and then when good things enter, you're just like,
What do I do?
yeah, it's I don't know what to do with them, which is so awful. And so that part of me is something I'm kind of working through right now because I realize that that's like such a toxic part of me that is kind of preventing my own happiness in my life. So sorry that was very long-winded, but that whole headspace is kind of covered and encompassed by what sad songs is about.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing the full thing other than the little clips.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it digs back into my roots from
Yeah.
like when I was a kid. It has a lot of kind of the personality of things I loved when I was, like between 10 and like 13 years old, which is like My Chemical Romance and like All American Rejects and like just all of these like fun like what I call La La Land like bands.
Yeah.
They just felt so like fun and charismatic and like I just loved listening to those records growing up and they shaped who I am like so much as a musician. So it's fun to get to like kind of explore like recreating those feelings myself, you know.
So you just finished your first tour. How was that?
Amazing and
Yeah.
awful
I don't,
all at the same time. Everything a first tour should be.
yeah.
So the shows were amazing. It was the first time I got to see any like in real life sort of like ROI on like all of the work that I had done over the years. And
Oh yeah.
I spent my entire like teenage years and like childhood playing to no one, in my bands and putting out music that never went anywhere, never really got heard. And so the idea of, again, looping back into the concept of good and bad things being kind of this weird dichotomy. Um, I almost didn't believe that I had fans and that I had listeners and that I had people that like really cared about what I did. Um, so even though I knew rationally that I did, the inner kid in me like sort of didn't believe it. So this tour got to be sort of proof um, that it does exist and all of
Yeah.
this work has been for something. And I've gotten to meet the most amazing people. Um, I cried a lot during like meet and greets and VIPs because I met so many other people that had mast cell activation syndrome and dealt with the exact same things that I do. And at home, I don't have that, I'm the only one. And so getting to meet these people was just totally the most profound experience of my life. There was one girl in particular, her name's Allie. I will never forget her. Um, in Nashville, she brought me a box of cromolyn sodium to sign, which is like this super niche like medication that we have to take to eat food. And I just broke down. I was like, you get it, like you get it,
Oh
you
wow.
know? And so yeah, it was amazing. I was like, I was just open and I was scared my first show, especially in San Diego. But after the first couple of songs, I was like, you know what? I'm like not gonna put on a face, and I just started being open and just talking about like what I was feeling in that moment where I was just like, this is terrifying. I can't believe you guys showed up. Like,
Yeah.
but like here we are, and I let them know I had so much anxiety prior to the tour about being perfect. You know, in rock, it's pretty brutal. Like, I feel like the expectations that fans and especially other musicians like have of you is like, if you're not perfect, then you're trash. And so I had this big fear that I was gonna go out there and like just totally drop the ball and like lose everything that I had spent so long like working for and all of the progress that I had received by putting in the work on myself as a human being. Like I was just so afraid of unraveling because I wasn't perfect. And um the most amazing thing was like I just said that on stage and I felt kind of embarrassed for a minute. And then like everybody in the crowd was just sort of like shouting affirmations at me on stage. And I was just like, you guys are like the nicest people of all time. Like this is not scary. And then that really gave me the power to feel like I could do it. Because prior to that, I didn't believe that I could. But I forced myself to try anyway. And so I'm so thankful to them because that taught me so much about myself and what I'm actually capable of. And the next few shows, um, I felt really good about. Like we just crushed it. Phoenix, Arizona felt really good. Um, and then yeah, then the bad things started happening. So I got a little sick like 2 days before I left for tour. And I didn't have COVID. I was negative for that. So I'm not sure what it was. But after a few shows of like pushing through and playing sick, I developed laryngitis, which is like
Oh
the
no.
worst thing that can happen to you as a singer.
Yeah.
Um, and so Dallas, I think, was our third or fourth show. And I just like, I tried to push through it. And I think we still had about like 4 songs left. And my voice was just totally gone. I couldn't even speak. Um, and so that was really embarrassing. So, you know what I mean? It was great. And then it was bad. And then I had to get like a steroid shot, like just to like get back up on the horse and like keep going. We had to cancel a show because I couldn't even speak and needed recovery time. And so the rest of the tour was very much me fighting to get better, but not having enough time off between shows. So it was like I would have just enough time to try and not speak to where I could like get my voice back. And then I would get on stage, play a show for 30 minutes, and then it would be gone again. And so then I'd have another day off. I wouldn't speak. And same thing. It was like that cycle for virtually the entire tour until like the last like 3 days. So um, everyone was still super nice.
Yeah.
Um, no one actually really cared, which was like even cooler in a way.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, okay, like I don't have to feel bad about this. Like I know that I'm showing up and I'm trying. Um, and even though, this is really difficult for me, um, and everything in me just like wants to cancel these shows because I don't want to give anyone like a terrible performance, like everybody's like paying to show up for me. Um, and so it was a really difficult internal battle to be like, no, I'm just going to show up anyway. And then everyone was so nice and like let me know, they were like, we just want to be here to like be around you and just, share our experiences with you and just like so, and please let me know if I'm like talking too much, but it made me realize that my music was almost like secondary and all of these people like became like family to me. Like all of my like fans and my followers like became family to me because they were just showing up for me. It
The
wasn't,
connect.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
um and obviously they care about the music and they love the music, but it was just such a like I still don't understand, you know?
Yeah.
And it made me feel really special. And so I'm just incredibly grateful for that first tour and all of its tumultuous events with, losing my voice and laryngitis, and we had our van break down. We were stuck for 2 days in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I
Um,
was supposed to see you in North Carolina.
oh my God, yeah, I know. It it actually makes me really sad because a friend of mine, we were supposed to play with a friend's band, Lowborn, um, in North Carolina, and Wes had been a friend of mine for a long time. Same with Zane, and there was a friend, Will, who was filling in for them, and we had to miss the show. And then about a month ago, he actually passed away. Will did, and so yeah, it was pretty tough. And it made me feel really, really bad that we missed that show because I hadn't seen him in 6 years or so. Um, so yeah, so it sucked that we missed North Carolina, because we had a lot of good friends there. And we were really looking forward to it, and then yeah, it was a lost opportunity to catch up with a friend, that I won't be able to catch up with, anymore. Um, so yeah, things, with the first tour were amazing and awful, and amazing and awful, all at the same time. But it was a wonderful experience, and now I'm really excited to go do it again.
And out in
And
Atlanta, you got to do something special?
yes, so Atlanta was my hometown, my first hometown show. And so this was my first hometown show on my first tour ever. And it was at the Masquerade, which was a venue that I grew up going to, between literally 14 years old, and about 20, man, like from 14 to about like 28. Like I spent like 14 years going to that venue to go see all of my favorite bands. And so for me to sell out the Masquerade, on my first tour ever, my first hometown show was like, um, probably one of the most emotional highlights of the tour. And I showed up to the venue, and this was the date that I took a steroid shot in the butt for, because
Wow.
I could not talk. My voice was shot, and I was like, I have to do this show, you know? And we had just found out it was sold out, I think a day or two before we got there, and I was like freaking out. Um, and so as soon as we got there, I had been holding off on doing the steroid shot because I wasn't sure how it was going to affect, my issues with mast cell activation syndrome. And being so far away from home, I was like really worried about having like a
Yeah.
bad reaction. Um, but as soon as we got to Atlanta, I was just like, nope, I took my butt to urgent care, and I was like, we're gonna do this because I want to play this show. And even if I have to like suffer through a flare up afterwards, like there's no way I'm missing it. So I went and did that. And then yeah, about an hour after I got the shot, all of a sudden I could speak, and I was just like, wow, like this is magic. So I totally understand why people like do it all the time, on like bigger tours, and especially like more like seasoned musicians that go through this, even though my doctor was like, don't do more than one. Um,
Yeah.
so I only did one, and it was for that show. And when I got to the venue from getting the steroid shot, the venue staff came out and like gave me this like bag of pins, that they had like custom made that said I sold out the Masquerade. And
Oh,
I just like lost it. And we were playing the smaller room, so it was about a 250 or 300 cap room. Um, but they had like just done it. It was like a brand new, like part of the venue. And so
yeah.
Masquerade, for anyone that knows, there's three different rooms. There's heaven, hell, and purgatory. And heaven's the big one, hell's the mid-sized one, and then you have purgatory, which is the smaller one. But they built like this in-between room, between purgatory and hell, called the altar. And so I think we were one of the first 10 acts to play that part of the club, which is like another like giant freaking honor because it's, a part of the venue's legacy now and history. And like, um, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. and we played the show, and I cried. It was great. And
Yeah.
I got to see so many people that I went to high school with, or like people that I had like grown up that were friends of friends, and then old friends, people that I grew up playing in bands with, like people I hadn't seen in years showed up, and it was just so cool. And everyone got to kind of catch up and like see what I'm doing now, and I got to hear about what they're doing now, and I got to also meet my therapist for the very first time
Oh, yeah.
in real life. She is from Atlanta and she lives in Alpharetta or Marietta, and so she came to the show, and so I got to meet her, which is amazing because we've been working together for 4 years, and she is the one that I mean started me on trauma work and everything else, and is I would say pretty responsible for low spirit existing at all. Um, and I think it was like our second therapy session ever where she kind of like called me out and she's like, you're a songwriter and you're a producer for all of these other people, and you're packaging your stories and these little bits of you and giving it to them to go out into the world and talk about and tell, but like maybe you should do it for yourself, maybe you should kind of stand, beside all of your stories and your hard work and go out there, and who cares if it's perfect or not. And so it was like shortly after that that I started kind of putting little pieces up online, like on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and
Yeah.
she was right, and so if she didn't tell me that, if we had never had that conversation, low spirit wouldn't exist. I would have
Yeah.
never I would have never considered it. And so this was like really special because this was my first hometown show on my first tour, and she was there to see it and to see kind of what she had done.
Yeah.
So it was really special because of that. So it was just probably one of the best nights of my life. It was, you know,
Yeah.
lots of full circle moments and conversations, and yeah, getting that pin from the venue was huge for the inner kid in me.
Yeah. So you also get to sing to your son on stage.
Yes. So this was this was actually Nashville. So um
Okay.
Rowan and Tori flew out from LA to my Nashville date, which was oh man, it was like a week or so after Atlanta. Um I think it was May 5th. Um and so yeah, I got to have Rowan on stage and sang Wild Things to him, and it was really cute because it was his first concert experience, and
Oh,
he had a blast. And he always knows he's the star of the show. So um, him getting on stage, he was about a year and a half old at that point, and so when he came out on stage, he didn't know what to think, and everyone started clapping. And his favorite thing is clapping. So when everyone started clapping at him, it got really quiet, and then he started clapping and saying "Yay!" at everyone else.
yeah.
And it was like the cutest freaking thing ever. And so the whole song, I was just like trying not to crack and mess up because I was just giggling at how funny he is, like, and how sweet he is. And it was a total blast. And everyone loved seeing him and meeting him, and he loved just being there and just hearing music. He loves to dance. Um, so yeah, it was a ton of fun. Um, but yeah, I seriously can't wait to go back out and do another tour.
Yeah. I
But
hope you
all in
had someone
all,
take a video of that so he can see it
it,
one day when.
it's yeah, it's definitely out there. I have a horrible trait, which is like I I hated watching like videos, like stories or anything of me like on tour, because I'm like I don't want to like hear myself because I don't want to pick myself apart. and then
Yeah.
get kind of like anxious about the next show, or like start racking up things like um, that I wasn't like perfect on, because inherently like I'm a perfectionist for sure, and a people pleaser, and so it's like I wouldn't watch any of those videos, but like some of them I would like sit and just like force myself to just like watch some of them, and I'd be like, oh, this is actually pretty good, and I'd like repost them.
Yeah.
um but for the most part, I tried to like avoid like watching myself. But I know that there are videos out there because I posted some photos from that show with Rowan on stage, and then people were asking for videos, and then I think some fans like in the comments were like posting videos and stuff like
Always
that.
been. Yeah.
Um, so they definitely exist, and I think Tori has some of them. But I personally have not watched them.
Yeah. So
Um,
you know that you are successful. You're connecting with people. What do you attribute to that?
what's funny is that I wrestle with that a lot, actually. Um, it's I know that this isn't exactly like the answer to the exact question that you're asking, but I feeling successful is like actually difficult for me. Because I always feel like there's so much more to do and so much more to like improve on. But again, like I'm inherently like a perfectionist. So um I I know that I've achieved things and I've like done things, but it's like it's really difficult for me to feel like I've like achieved what I set out to do, if that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like little short like moments for me where I'm like, okay, I did it, you know?
Yeah.
But then I go home and it's funny how like quickly that goes away, and I think it's a natural thing for a lot of musicians where it's like, okay, what's next? You know? What do I do next? How do I get to this next place? Or um but to answer your question, the success that I have seen, and the success that I like continue to, live, um, is definitely just a result of like transparency and honesty in a world, in a climate where I feel like everyone feels the need to put on a face and put up their best highlight reel, to look like they have a good life, or they have this or that, or they're important. Um, I feel like it was a total accident for me because I still struggle with feeling like I need to do that. Um,
Yeah.
and I need to like show up my best self all the time. Um, because when you're trying to get a career going in the music industry, like people tell you all the time, like what is a good look or what's a bad look, or this or that. And they try to filter or control like how you feel and how you behave and how you sort of present yourself, like it needs to be like this squeaky clean, um, like I guess like holier than thou thing, and for me, I just always showed up every day as myself, and even if I wasn't doing very well, which is unfortunately more often than not, um I think just being honest like really kind of helped me connect with other people that saw a little bit of themselves in my story, which like always makes me feel really good, because I feel alone a lot of the times in my problems,
Mm.
even now. Um,
Yeah.
and that hasn't changed, which is funny. So the fact that I can do that for other people, and help them feel less alone in their situations when they look at me and look at what I'm going through or talking about online, um, helps me feel successful. And with a I have a busy life, so I tend not to find as much time to like sit down and really look at those connections and count them and feel really good about them, which I should do more often, because when I look at those exchanges and those interactions, conversations, and moments throughout my career over the last couple of years, they always lift me up. Um, so yeah, I will go down a rabbit hole if I keep talking.
Yeah.
But
No, I totally agree with you. I think that's what it is. Like you're flawed, you're real, you know?
Yeah.
It's not someone on a pedestal. It's we can connect with you.
Right. Um I think that talking about that in general just kind of like always sends me on a tangent, especially right now. It's like not triggering. It's not, that's not the right word. I think it's something that I'm struggling with right now, where I don't feel like I can, lately, I don't feel like I can show up as my my authentic self all of the time. Um, because I feel like now that I live in Los Angeles, and you know, I'm doing touring and I'm like putting out music and it seems like from the outside I have a pretty okay life. It feels like I'm in a place of privilege, so it almost feels wrong to talk about my issues and my problems, which is something that I've been struggling with a lot, to be honest. And I'm afraid to be like, you know, I'm struggling today, because I just, I see it. I see people like coming back and being like, you have all this, and like, how could you feel like that? Because you have all this, and you have a beautiful family, and you have a decent house, and like this and that. And like, there's so many people who have it worse. And like, I just feel so guilty for like still being so broken and messed up and ill. Um, and it feels like people don't want to see you grow or get better in a lot of ways. Especially with online culture. I feel like people people just like to step on each other in a lot of ways, and because I do struggle with self-worth issues and depression and anxiety and CPTSD and a lot of other things, I I have like kind of become afraid in a way to post how I'm actually feeling or what's actually going on, because I almost don't have the spoons to like kind of read people's like judgments and things like that. And so I've grown really quiet online, um, which makes me feel bad because that makes me feel like I walked backwards in progress, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I should be able to tell the truth, and I should be able to, be honest about things that I'm struggling with and things that, you know, are hard for me, even though I'm in a better place now than I was, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of people expect you to kind of be like, once you get to a certain point, just be like, oh, that's good enough. Like I'm no longer depressed. I'm no longer anxious. I'm no longer this or that because I have all of these, material things or like success benchmarks over here, things that you've achieved. Like that should be it. But the truth is that like no amount of success, um, no amount of, like praise for music or anything is enough to like fix someone's inner turmoil. It just doesn't, you know. Um, and so I'm still on a journey of recovery. I think I will be probably for the rest of my life in a lot of ways. And it feels really good to say all of this because I haven't said any of this out loud. It's just all things that I've been like feeling and just kind of holding in for a long time. But you know, I have a lot to prove to myself. And I don't think you can ever make anyone understand that. Or why, you know. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, that could be a new song idea of how you're feeling there, not feeling like you can't be
To be
fully
honest, yeah, I
honest.
need I
Yeah.
need more friends. I need more friends like you to point that out because it has that same feeling and that same situation has also made writing really difficult for me. Um, because now it's like it's weird. It's like I don't know how to talk about um my problems through my lens or like any of these things that I'm going through without like coming off like facetious or like, like coming from a place of privilege and people just being like, how could you feel that way? There's a lot of second guessing myself going on right now, in full transparency. And I'm definitely going through just a weird headspace and moment, um, where I'm not allowing myself to be myself, and that's something that I really need to get my shit together with, for lack of better words. Because if I don't, and I kind of allow myself to be, silenced by the idea of, what other people think of me, then like I am absolutely the opposite of everything that I was trying to be, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Maybe you need to write about it. That's your therapy.
yeah, yeah, I know. But as you can see, like I have so many thoughts, and I get so lost so quickly. I will talk myself into a hole until eventually I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
And then I lose the plot, and then I'm like, okay, I need to take a
Yeah.
break.
Well, my last question for you, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really want to share with your fans?
Um, so I am I'm on a quest, a writing quest right now. And I've been putting together what I think is my first album.
Oh,
And I've talked about putting together an album on Instagram quite a bit. Um, but I know everybody is like everyone that has been paying attention has been like very eager for me to drop it. Um,
yeah.
but as we've talked about over the past 20-ish minutes or so, I'm a perfectionist, and so I keep going back and finding holes in everything, and I feel like I there are still things that I need to discover about myself that I want to say. Um, and so all that I ask is that everyone be patient with me in trying to continue to do the work on myself and discover things about myself that I feel like are important to put across in a first body of work. Because um, with my first record, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I think it needs to be real and it needs to be genuine, and it doesn't need to be coming from a headspace of being afraid of what people think of me, which is like where I actually am right now. Um, and so all I ask is that everyone be patient while I do the work upon myself to put out a record that makes sense, and that is, truly coming from me, and not a place of
Yeah.
fear or insecurity. So,
Yeah.
and stream sad
All
songs.
right.
It comes out.
Yes. Can't wait. All right. Well, thanks for chatting.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. It's always a blast. Thanks for letting me ramble on.
Always. All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.